session, which certainly changes the complexion of this Moto2 session coming up, and potentially MotoGP qualifying, which is still to come this morning. What are we, around about an hour and a half to 2 hours away, depending on whether you're talking about Q1 or Q2, from MotoGP's battle for pole position. What kind of track are the Premier Class riders going to be greeted with? Well, they'll get some extra information shortly from Moto2. And Diogo Moreira leads us into Super Saturday. The title chaser, edging out the home favourite, Senna Agius. David Alonso taking third place on another strong day for the 2024 Moto3 champion. Jake Dixon, top Boscoscuro, a circuit which has so often suited the Boscoscuros. Not so yesterday, only 3 of them through to Q2. World Championship leader Manu Gonzalez, he was 5th yesterday. That does not come close to telling the story of his first day. Mario Aggi, what a fine day for him, 6th quickest. Aaron Canet looking something closer to his old self. At least he's not in Q1 this time. First automatic Q2 graduation for Canet since Barcelona. Tony Arbolino, Darren Binder, his first Q2 appearance since Qatar. Colin Vaya, Danny Munoz, Barry Baltus, inform Ethan Guevara and Ayumu Sasaki. They complete your 14 riders who are straight through to qualifying 2. If you didn't hear a rider's name mentioned, if you were listening out for your favourite back at home or around the circuit here at Phillip Island, well, they'll be in qualifying 1 later on this afternoon, which includes the likes of Joe Roberts, a winner already earlier this season at both of the Speed RS Boscoscuros, of Alonso Lopez and Celestino Vietti, who had 3 crashes between them yesterday. And perhaps the most surprising name of all outside the top 14, perhaps not surprising if you watched practice yesterday, but surprising if you didn't, Danny Holgado, of course a twice winner in Moto2 since the summer break. Well, he had a crash coming up and over Lukey Heights yesterday early in practice, did get back out on track at the end of the session, but in the very small window he had to put a lap time on the board. Holgado only able to get himself up to 21st place. So he is one of those playing catch-up as we go into this Saturday of running in Moto2, which as always will be talked through by myself, Lewis Sotheby, and Neil Morrison to my right in the commentary box. Contrasting days, Neil, for our 2 leading title contenders. Diogo Moreira with a very content smile on his face after ending the day in P1, and perhaps smiling to himself at the knowledge of his championship leading rival, Manu Gonzalez, in a spot of bother yesterday.
Yeah, he was. It might not look like it on the timing screens at the end of practice yesterday. Manu Gonzalez there in 5th position, but it was a tricky day. We'll maybe come on to him in just a little bit as we look in to home hero Senna Agius' new special crash helmet design, which is a one-off for his home event this weekend. Some purple on there, lots of black. Looks quite distinctive and pretty cool, and quite a few of those Aussie fans watching on from the sidelines will be cheering themselves hoarse, you feel, tomorrow, because from what we could see in practice, Senna Agius is maybe the pre-race favourite at this early point in the weekend. Things can obviously change, and we still have the small matter of qualifying to go today, but certainly looking at the rhythm in practice, Agius was standing head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, we'll have a chance when the session gets underway to really get into the general rhythm of everyone yesterday, and based on the conditions we might have plenty of opportunity to talk about that. We're hoping we're going to see plenty of riders straight out onto the racetrack, but just to bring you up to speed on conditions, if you weren't watching Moto3 FP2 moments ago, we did have a rainfall or rain shower midway through the session, which has left this circuit sort of partially wet. Wouldn't say it's absolutely soaking wet. The rain certainly was easing off already by the time the Moto3 session came to a close. But it would certainly take a brave rider to even contemplate slicks at the start of this Moto2 session. Surely everyone's going to begin this session on wet weather tyres and assess things from there. And for riders looking to get their final race prep done on a weekend where managing your tyre to the end of the Grand Prix is going to be the key, this is the kind of session that Moto2 riders could really do without.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially one or two riders in particular that lost the majority of yesterday afternoon. I'm thinking of Manu Gonzalez, who I meant to say lost the morning session, or Danny Holgado, who lost the afternoon. Jake Dixon giving us a bit of an indication of just what the conditions are like here. It is pretty cold. Actually, the rain looks a bit worse than it actually is on our TV screens. Walking over from the paddock, it's more of a kind of a heavy drizzle, but certainly not something that will leave you soaking wet. You can see quite a few fans still braving the conditions out there. And well, let's see. I think it will be wet tyres, as Lewis said, certainly for the start of this session. And as we saw yesterday morning, it did dry up fairly quickly with the blustery and high winds that we have here.
There was one rider who might be getting some flashbacks, Joe Roberts at the American Racing Squad. It was in exactly this session, in these kind of conditions last year, when he headed into his 26-24 campaign, when the high side coming through these sort of loops, damage to his wrist, unrecovered from partway through these seasons. It's the kind of session where there's perhaps a lot more to lose than there is to gain from going out there at the moment. It's very difficult to really say with any certainty what kind of conditions we're going to have for race day tomorrow, so who knows, we might have something resembling this for the 23-lap Moto2 battle tomorrow. The greater concern tomorrow really for all three classes of Grand Prix racing are the strong winds which are forecast for tomorrow. Something approaching what we saw yesterday, if not slightly worse, with the gusts potentially reaching as high as 70 kilometres an hour. One rider, though, enjoying the extra powered speed that the wind gave him yesterday was David Alonso. Yeah,
David Alonso, third fastest at the end of practice, and super fast and consistent as well. Certainly one of the names that will be up there fighting for the podium if we were to base that on yesterday's practice session. Great to see some Colombian fans in supporting the reigning 2024 Moto3 World Champion. Alonso looking very good. And one key area that he needs to improve, and if he can do that, he can maybe be up on the same kind of level as Senna Aegis. It was a decent day as well for Ivan Ortola, who was just on our screens. He was just narrowly outside the top 14, down in 16th. But first day here on the Moto2 machine yesterday went okay, went a lot better than it did for this rider. Danny Holgado has been the revelation of this year in Moto2. Been the star of the second half of the championship in some ways as well, but he had a nightmare day, didn't he, Lewis?
Interesting, when you listen to rookies across all three Grand Prix classes, they say that what you need around here is just laps. You need to just do lap after lap after lap to understand how to truly master this circuit. Holgado cost himself a ton of laps yesterday with a crash at Lukey Heights. He also said that from returning to the racetrack after that crash, it took him a little bit of time, not that he had much of it at the end of the session, to rebuild his confidence. Only was able to put in around about 5 laps in the session overall. And those, of course, were all after his crash, which came on his first timed lap. So Holgado 21st, he was pleased with the limited progress he made, but it was limited progress in just 5 laps. And, of course, so often we see the Aspar team putting